and welcome to another edition of Take 10. Take 10 is a service department, corporate housing and global mobility podcast where we seek to offer insights based on informal chat and icebreaker questions to get to know the guests a little better, and followed by a summary of the guest's business so that you can examine potential collaboration. So, without further ado, let's meet today's guest. Excellent, and that worked. Hi, Ben. I'm so
Hey,
relieved that actually worked. It's a new
brilliant
intro, and
transition.
didn't didn't it work? Yeah, it's better than
Yeah.
listening to me. So, thank you for coming on to Take 10. Really appreciate it. Um, you know how much I admire the work you do. We'll talk about that
Thank you.
later. But over to you for the brief intro before we start breaking some ice questions.
Yeah, thank you so much, Richard. I love having you be a part of our shows every day. You're such a great supporter of the show, and honestly, without supporters like you, we couldn't have Love and Relo. Some of you may know me as a host of Love and Relo, which is kind of a live streaming podcast about the relocation and global mobility industry. It takes kind of a more personal look, maybe at the people, behind the industry, and kind of cuts through some of the superficial BS that we see at some of these conferences and gets to the real issues and the heart of those issues and the people's perspectives, the genuine perspectives, I think, that are so valuable. I'm also blessed to be the CEO and founder of GLOMO. GLOMO is a consultancy and recruitment agency in the global mobility industry. Very fortunate to be doing that now. We are in our fifth year now in business, which is pretty incredible. And I'm very proud of the work that we're doing and hopeful about the future of what we can accomplish.
Fantastic. Thanks, Ben, for that introduction, and would love to hear more about that afterwards. Let's break some ice, and
Okay.
get to know you a little better with topics really that we often don't discuss. I'm sure.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, classical art or modern art? What kind of a guy are you?
Ooh, I'm a more modern art. I like pop art. I'm actually a little bit of an artist myself, and I enjoy
Are
pop
you?
art. Yeah.
That is very interesting. In which case, we're going to swing right into another question that I had for you. Painting or drawing?
Yeah, it's so funny because I've drawn my whole life. I've always been a draw, sketch type of person, pencil drawing, until very recently when I realized that sketching is the foundation of art, but it's so that you can go to the next level, which is then to either sculpt it or to paint it or to whatever. So I've been experimenting with acrylic paints last couple of years, and I've really enjoyed it. So painting.
Really interesting. When you mention acrylic, it embarrasses me slightly. We have a property which is on shortlet, here. And I thought that I would try and do a bit of abstract art myself, and did it on and
How'd it go?
using that paint and my wife never stops criticizing it. So I'll need to get some guidance from you on that.
Well, I don't know. Art is very subjective, and that's the beautiful part about it. I think the best way to endeavor to do it, just like anything in life, is to do it with very little expectation. Just go express yourself freely, be daring, be courageous, and if it's worthwhile, it'll live on, and if it's not, you paint over it.
Spot on, and I love that. I love that parallel. Both for art and then also life generally. Love it.
You know what I love about. I know this is supposed to be fast, but you know what I love about art is I was sitting there, painting something the other night, and it was absolute rubbish. And I tried to try. I took a couple chances, and I made a couple green lines, and those lines kind of look like cacti to me. And then those cacti, I added arms to them, and I added a sunset. And all of a sudden, it turned into something that my 7-year-old said looked like professional, and it was the most garbage start ever. But I just kind of persisted, and I made some courageous decisions in the moment. Each decision with each stroke of the brush is a decision, and you have to take courage. Am I going to do the cliche thing, or am I going to do the wild, crazy thing, And it's just like life, the decisions we make. Are we going to play it straight, or are we going to do something kind of wild and crazy and see what happens? And so I love art for that reason.
Yeah, fascinating. I absolutely love that. And don't worry about being fast. It needs it's as fast as your agenda will will allow, fast or slow as your agenda will allow. So, but fascinating. I could talk on that one all day. I really, really could. The only thing I hate are so if I go to an art gallery or something, the only thing I hate are portraits. I had the worst afternoon of my life, I think, at the I don't know what they call it, London Portrait Gallery. Oh God,
Why?
we
What is it about portraits that you hate so much?
a face is a face. If they're unless they're really interesting, then there's not much there. It's just another face.
I think your face would be fun to paint. If I was a really skilled painter, I think your face is a very interesting face.
Mm.
I disagree. I disagree with you, Richard. I think we wear
Yeah.
our emotions on our face. I think there's something
Yeah.
about faces that humans can recognize. Think about that. We can probably recognize a million different faces. We really can, right? Um,
Yeah.
and how many people say I'm not good with names, but I'm good with faces. Well, faces have more variety than names. I know a dozen Richards. I only know one, maybe two or three people that look like you. But they even say bees can recognize people's faces. So I think the face may be a bit underrated, Richard. I'll be honest with you. The eyes are the
Okay.
windows to the soul. The face is the picture. I just love it.
Yeah.
I like
No,
faces.
yeah, excellent. And you mentioned bees as well. I've started another obsession of watching these bees in our garden, but I
Oh,
won't go
really?
into that one. Yeah, yeah, we've got a pine tree in the corner, and
Okay.
I was kind of like wondering why they were buzzing around there, and whether they were just looking for moisture because they were thirsty because it's been quite dry here, or
Is it
what was going on.
Is it an arbor vitae, pine tree? Because they attract bees.
Gosh, I don't
Is
know.
it like a
Christmas tree.
narrow? Is it like a narrow kind of
I
pine
think it's a
evergreen
spruce.
spruce?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah, kind of spruce. I don't know.
Well,
Yeah,
bees,
but
bees are somewhat annoying because we don't want to get stung, but I mean they're actually really really good for the environment. So,
yeah.
embrace the danger a little bit.
Oh no, definitely, definitely. Although yeah, I don't do that so much. But yeah, so climbing I know that you're a great supporter of students and young people, and I've always found that fantastic. Climbing the corporate ladder or further education, which way should they go? Do you think? Yeah.
I think that
Difficult.
there's a lot of people that are making a very good case for not having a college degree these days. What I've found is that it depends on who you ask. If you ask a doctor, is an advanced degree important? They would say yes. If you ask a college graduate, is a college degree important? They tend to say yes. If you ask someone who never went to college or university, if they think it's important, they would say no, you can get around it. It's really interesting. I think that we tend to believe in whatever choice we've chosen, and we tend to espouse that as the route. I think that there's a lot of information out there that people can go and they can get for free that is probably college level, university level equivalent or better. However, will they? Right? The beautiful thing about university is it holds you to account for 4 years, a body of work, right? Who is there to check off whether you watched 4 hours of YouTube videos of instruction about accountancy or computer programming or whatever, and then to say at the very end that you have reached some level of capability in this field and are therefore good enough to go practice it in the world, right? I think that there is something to be said for the concerted effort towards a study over a long period of time, a body of work. I mean, what I do with Love and Relo is not impressive on a daily basis. What's impressive is that I've done it for 5 years. And I think that there's something to that piece of it. So I do think that university education is important. However, I do think that we're failing kids because we're not giving them some of the skills they need to come out. For instance, we have kids coming out of business school, business admin school, and they don't have a moderate to advanced proficiency in Microsoft Excel. I still think that's important. They need to be able to use AI tools. I mean, I would hope that a college graduate coming out of a business school, a good business school these days, would be my most skilled AI user in my company. I don't know if that's the case, right? Like I need more skills and I want more people skills too. I think that there's a disservice done to these students when we put them in front of a professor that is only theoretical and lacks the practical application of these business theories. I get to meet these students, and disparity in their social skills is staggering. Some are amazing social butterflies that can network in a room with anybody and hold their own in a conversation with adults, and some of them don't know how to shake hands and look you in the eye. And I think that there's some skills like that we really need to be teaching. And the best way to do it is to take people from industry like you and me and put them in the classroom, or have mixers and have things where we can socialize with these young people.
100%. Yeah, no, exactly those sorts of social skills. I mean, beer drinking competitions are, indispensable. But it's, yeah, I totally agree with,
Well,
with all of that.
I think we swung the other way on it, right? So my university experience was a lot of beer drinking competitions, right? And young people these days are making better decisions, for their health than I did. I mean, they're not smoking, right? They're not drinking at the same level. They're getting more sleep. I mean, just so many decisions that they're making that are better and more well informed than what I was doing. However, there was a lot of socialization that was happening in those beer drinking competitions, right? There was a lot of bonds that were being made. There was a lot of trust that was being built. There was a lot there that I think we threw the baby out with the bathwater a little bit, you
Mm,
know?
mm. Yeah, and I think there is an increasing question mark, isn't there? I was watching a comedy only the other day. It's called Back. It's UK comedy, and there was a lady that was going to be going to, as a mature student, going back to university, and she was kind of like extolling the virtues of education, and the older fella that was response, ironically older fella, was, "What do I need an university for when I've got Wikipedia?" And it's kind of like that. But like you were saying earlier, we can find it all on online. But yeah, there's a lot more to it than that. Um, Strangest food.
That I've eaten, or that I just
Yeah.
think is the strangest that I've eaten?
Either, I suppose. Let's say that you've eaten. I don't know. Both.
I think here's a couple things for you. One of my favorite restaurants out here in Texas is in Fort Worth. It's in the Stockyards, which is a very old style and generally old area, right? So it's a working cattle stockyard, okay? And it's a phenomenal place to go have a beer drinking competition, to your point. But my favorite restaurant there is called Lonesome Dove, and it's by Chef Tim Love. And everything is a lot of game on the menu. And one of my favorite burgers ever, anywhere, is the elk slider there. And it's made out of elk. Elk slider is very good. And they have a rattlesnake sausage that is also very good. To be honest with you, once you grind it up and you throw some seasoning in it, it doesn't taste incredibly different than any other meat you've
Yeah.
had. I think a lot of it's in the presentation. I mean, if we knew what was in a hot dog, it would probably categorize
Yeah.
as the weirdest thing we've ever eaten. I do remember being at a Vietnamese restaurant with my wife when we were younger, and we ordered a bowl of pho, and they said, "Do you want the sirloin, or do you want the combination?" And me being a more is more typical American, I said, "I want the combination." Well, the combination included tripe, right? And I didn't know
Mm.
that, and so I'm eating this tripe, and I thought it tasted a lot like calamari or some sort of a squid, And I shout to the lady behind the counter. I said, "What is this? It's interesting. It has a lot of texture. It's got a weird thing." She's like, "It's something in Vietnamese." The other one, something in Vietnamese, and she says, "Cow stomach," and I'm like, "Cow
Yeah.
stomach? Okay, that's what we're eating right now. Cow stomach. Okay,
It's,
so cow stomach's probably the weirdest thing I've ever eaten."
right. Right. Actually, it's funny you mentioned that one because where I'm originally from in Manchester, cow stomachs are tripe. I've I don't think I've even ever eaten it, but one of our neighbours, an older lady, was always going on about tripe, and yeah, because it's quite a cheap dish, isn't it? Actually, I think, and
Yeah.
it's one of these sorts of ones where you can it tends to be sold in rather, well, looking at more deprived areas, I suppose.
Well, places where you just have more necessity, right? You eat
Yeah,
everything. You don't waste any parts, right?
yeah.
From the rooter to the tutor is what we always said here in the States.
Mm.
I think that I'll tell you one that is absolutely magnificent that a lot of people wouldn't touch. Oxtail.
Oh, really?
A braised oxtail
Yeah,
or lingua, cow tongue, that's done
yeah.
properly, like in a Mexican stew, braised. unbelievable. Some of the best meat you'll ever eat. A lengua taco is probably my favorite taco meat, and an
Right, yeah.
oxtail is up there with short rib, maybe better than short rib.
Right, right. Interesting. Yeah, no, oxtail is quite well known over here.
Hmm.
Soups and what have you.
Yeah.
Interesting. God, I don't know what the time is there. I'm ready for dinner now.
Yeah,
Um,
really. Me
so,
too.
maybe a couple more questions, perhaps, because we've got to leave you. Oh gosh, maybe just one more question, just to leave you some time for to talk about your business. But this is a pretty heavy question, perhaps. And actually, do this last question, all credit to Love and Relo and the overrated underrated. I was trying to find a way of slipping the overrated underrated thing in here, but I
Sure.
think it is a
Do it.
great end to
Go for
the
it.
to you. No, I can't think of,
Okay.
unfortunately not. I couldn't think of a way, but whilst we're talking about it, dear viewers, we do want to be talking about Love and Relo later, and at the end of every Love and Relo, there is an overrated, underrated, which Ben does, and it's very entertaining. It's great. But
Thank
yeah,
you.
I've got two questions I'd like to ask, but I've got to choose
Ask
one
them.
of them. Um,
Ask them both.
so living life with highs and lows, or living life with kind of standard and even. Would you have a preference to that? It's almost one that doesn't have an
You know,
answer, but
I always say, don't watch what people say, watch what they do, right? And this is one of those situations where if you ask me what should we do, I'd say, even keel is best, right? But I'd be remiss if I didn't admit that I'm very much a highs and lows person.
yeah,
My highs are very high, my lows are very low.
yeah,
I think that it's never as bad as you think it is. I think it's always better than sometimes you think it is, and I think remind yourself of that and to surround yourself with people who ground you and who give you that balance and that perspective is
yeah.
important. I mean, I've been very blessed to have a wife that always disagrees with me. So if I think I'm very high on myself, she'll tell me I'm not. If I think I'm very low, she'll fortunately bring me back from the pits of despair, right? So I'm very fortunate to have a wife. That's the blessing in it, right? To understand, wow, there's actually a purpose for you constantly disagreeing with me. No, but I think I'm a very much a highs and a low person. What about you, Richard? You a highs and lows
Yeah, very
person, or
much.
yeah?
100% agree. I wouldn't like to live life on a particularly even keel. I mean, I wouldn't want to plummet into to the depths of depression, nor get kind of like manically excited about something. But yeah, I can cope with the lows, and I'll take that, and I'll take the highs. Yeah,
I
yeah,
think
definitely.
sometimes I think the older I get, the more perspective I get. The further away from the problem, the smaller the problems feel. But it's so funny because one day I can be king of the world, and the next day I can be worthless.
Yeah,
And what has really changed? What has really changed in 24 hours?
yeah,
And
yeah,
then I have
yeah.
to take a look at it. When I think about it that way, I say, well, probably the only thing that's changed is the chemicals in my brain.
Yeah,
What
yeah,
are
yeah.
the chemicals that are being released? And when you think about
I,
that, it's like, how do we trigger those positive chemicals?
I mean, 100%, and also the perspective. I've said to the kids on many occasions, if there's a problem, let's say, you can change how that issue feels according to whether you see it as a problem or something else. It's
Yeah,
all so
it's huge.
that's what I
We
try
call
to
that, I
delude
call that
myself.
reframing. You got to reframe the
Ah,
situation. How do you choose to look
right.
at it? Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
great advice.
No. But yeah, interesting. I suppose I will ask one more question, and this is based,
Please.
but it's tying in then with another thing that you do, which is not Love and Relo, and you mention it in a minute, please do. But it's one with education, or more to do perhaps with the on your recruitment side, perhaps. I think it is. I've watched it on a couple of occasions. So my question would be, because I got totally riveted about one conversation you were having, and it was because I know you're millennial, I'm a boomer, and there were Gen Zs on this particular broadcast. So, as a millennial, are you happy there, or would you prefer to shift to a Gen Z or a boomer?
I think if it's a question of time, would I rather be 15 years younger and have 15 more years of life? I think you always take the time, right? It's the most valuable asset we have. I think that these Gen Z, youngsters, these kids. I told them I'm not supposed to call them kids, but whatever. I'm an old man now, so I can call them kids. Um, you know, I think these kids have so much information, and I think it's a real. They're so fortunate to have all the information that they have. It is truly overwhelming. We are in the information age, and they have so many tools, and it can be a bit of a paradox of choice kind of situation. Sorry, yeah. So it's like where you have so many choices, you can't make a choice, right? So many options, you can't make a choice. I think that I love these kids. It energizes me so much to watch them figure stuff out. They have so much capability. But gosh, the older I get, the more I rediscover the value of conventional wisdom and old sayings and old convention. And I think that the power of the millennial generation is that we bridge the gap. We bridge the gap between the Zs and the boomers, the analog and the digital. And I feel very fortunate to be in that space where I can speak both languages. Right?
Yeah,
I could talk to
yeah,
someone like you, and I could talk to someone who's 20
yeah,
years old, hopefully,
exactly.
and still relate to some degree.
Uh, I mean, that's very true. Whereas I tend to get lost often. I certainly will get lost. It reminded me yesterday on the tube. I wish that they would invent a telephone which switches off the screen when you're walking, because I'm just getting fed up of walking behind people that are reading their telephone, and I'm stuck behind them. You
Why
know?
are they not moving fast enough? What's the problem?
Yeah, yeah, that's right. They're not moving fast enough. This girl was going down the stairs in the tube, and I was thinking, what's taking so long? And I
Well,
got to the bottom, and
why don't you just blow by them? Why don't you just kind of give them a little
there was
elbow,
no.
a little
Yeah, I would have
little
done. There was
shove,
no.
little
There was
shove?
no room. Yeah,
Oh, go right through
yeah.
them. Go right through them, Richard. That'll teach
I,
them, right?
yeah, I know. I know. I try not to do that these days, to be honest. Now I'm becoming fragile, and anyone can turn around and hit me. Then I tend not to. I've tend to
Well, you're
not
going to
to
be
do
moving
that.
pretty slow one of these days too, Richard, right? So we got to give grace, right? If we want
Uh,
grace, we got to give grace. One day you're going to be the slow guy on the stairs, okay?
mm, okay, so yeah, fair enough. I'll take that
And
one.
you're gonna have no
Right.
excuse. You're not gonna have a phone or anything. You're just gonna be trying
No,
to make it up the stairs.
just the Zimmer frame. Yeah. Oh Lord, thank you.
I'm sorry, man.
Right. I
I
think
think
that's
there's always that's the thing. I think there's always another side to it, right? It's
yeah,
like we say, kids these days, but then I mean, we were
yeah,
kids these days once, right? I mean, we were,
yeah.
I'm sure back in the day you were, a hippie or a rock and roll long haired or you were something that some older
Yeah.
generation was like, kids these
Oh yeah.
days.
Ah, it's the purpose of youth, isn't it? I always
Yeah,
I always think that,
that's a
if
great
they're
way to
not
put it.
rebelling, then there's something wrong.
They're wasting their
Absolutely.
time. They're wasting the
Yeah.
beautiful 20s, the beautiful
Oh,
youth.
100%,
Yeah.
100%. Now I've taken too much of your time with
No,
those, and it's just because I enjoy speaking to you so much. But
I do too.
please tell us all about GLOMO, Love and Relo, get about the broadcasts that you do as well, perhaps with the on the recruitment side.
Yeah,
But yeah, over to you, Ben. And thank
yeah.
you very much.
Well, I mean, honestly, I like talking to you. I'd almost rather talk to you, frankly, about this stuff than promote my company. But yeah, I think we do good work. We do recruiting, right? We've placed, I don't know, well over 100 people in this industry. It's pretty cool, honestly, Richard. When you go to a conference, I was at the FEM conference last week here in Dallas, and you look around the room, and you're like, we've placed 5 people in this room in their jobs.
Oh,
Like that is a
wow.
really cool feeling. And I love recruitment. I wasn't in recruitment before. I was in moving. I was a removals person, right? For
Yeah.
15 plus years. And what I love about recruiting is that we connect people to jobs that change their life. I mean, we're kind of a part of an inflection point in their career. And we get to be a really kind of catalyst for people's careers. And that's like super cool. We can't help everybody. That's the worst part. The worst part is we can't help everybody. There's so many people out there that need a job or need an opportunity or want something different. And we don't have the opportunity. The opportunity doesn't exist. We don't have access to it, whatever. But when you can find a fit, when you can make the puzzle pieces fit, it's just so beautiful. And they win, and the company wins, and we win, and it's just a win-win-win. And I just love it. Just absolutely love it.
Mm, absolutely. Do you think that AI will? I mean, and maybe it's a real naive question. Does maybe it's already taken? Does that is AI will AI come into it?
I hope so. Make my job a
Yeah.
lot easier. I mean, I've thought about this a lot, right? I'm like, if you have all of the, say, let's just pretend all the employees are on LinkedIn. Let's just pretend, which they're not. But let's pretend that they are. And let's pretend that they have a well developed profile with all sorts of bullet points and everything, right? Why can't I take that data set and take all the jobs on Indeed?
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys use Indeed over there, but take
Wow.
the biggest job board in the world. Let's say it's Indeed, and put it together,
Yeah.
like and just make it figure it all out, right?
Mm.
Like theoretically, that should work, right? But there's just so many gaps that we can't think of that happen in
And
that
there is that,
process.
but isn't there? And it's that kind of
Yeah.
similar to what we were talking about earlier, where you've got those social skills that come into it. So that on paper it might be absolutely brilliant, but then you're thinking, is this for real? This is the
Yeah.
person that is supposed to be best.
You need somebody to look that candidate in the eye and say, are they full of it or not? Are they really who they say they are? Because that candidate's going to take a bunch of their bullet points, they're going to dump it into AI, into
Yeah.
ChatGPT, along with the job description. They're going to come out with a customized resume tailored for that job description. And then
Right.
you're going to ask an employer's talent acquisition system to read that tailor-made job resume
Wow.
and see if it works. And it's like, so now you got AI talking to AI. Well, at some point, now AI decides to hire this person. Well, the person wasn't who they said they were, right?
Yeah.
And it's like there's a lot of blind spots in AI. So
Right.
I think,
Interesting.
yeah, I think the other thing I would say about this is, as it, people talk about how hard it is to get a job. You know why it's so hard to get a job? Because there's so much automation in the process. Because all the jobs are online and it's click to apply. So now people are applying for 300 jobs. So every job opening has 1,000 different applicants, 200 of which might be mildly qualified, 100 might be actually qualified. And nobody can go through all of those applications and screen all of those applicants. That's why recruiters are actually, I think, more important than ever right now, because we hand pick these people and they come with our personal recommendation. And so, yeah, I think that,
Frightening,
yeah,
actually. Good grief.
it
Yeah,
is frightening.
that is. It is. Yeah. Okay. And so in addition to GLOMO, then is so the recruitment side. Then you also offer a consultant in the sector.
Yeah, we do consulting as well. So we do two different things on the consulting side. We do business development consulting for global mobility service provider companies. So if you're a company in the space that's looking to grow your business, we work with you and we help you grow. We introduce you to clients. We help you understand how you fit into the space. We help you understand who your customers are, what they buy, why they buy, how they buy, and we help navigate that for you and help you grow your business. But then we also have been doing more M&A advisement. So we've been doing mergers and acquisitions. So we have a deal closing hopefully next month. We'll see. But that's been really exciting because when I look at this space, and it's undoubtedly, as presently constructed, the relocation industry is a very mature business. Okay, it just is. It's in a very mature phase of its business life cycle, and we're starting to see some contraction in demand. We're starting to see some consolidation. And when I look at this industry as a consulting firm owner, I say, how do we make money in this business at present state? And I think that the real opportunity right now is putting companies together and to say, okay, you two really make sense together. You complement each other well. And so that's been a lot of fun.
Yeah. Yeah. There's one of your Love and Relos not long ago. Um, and I don't know, I think it's okay if I mention the company, Dwellworks, and it seemed like that was, a business strategy
Hmm.
that's, and
Oh,
it was
certainly.
just so interesting. And in fact, talking about Love and Relo, and let's get this on the screen here, Love and Relo.
Hmm.
So Do you want to tell viewers a little bit about that? How frequency and the
Yeah,
general kind of shape of it.
sure. Thank you very much. So, Love and Reload, we've done 650 episodes of Love and Reload now. It is a 1 hour live stream conversation. Tune in. You'll see comments from Richard, always in the comments, so we appreciate you. But I love it because people can get in the comments and everyone kind of participates in the conversation. And I try to be very diligent about honoring those comments and taking a moment to ask the questions and giving shout outs to people who join in. I think that's part of the fun, right? The democratization of the content and the crowdsourcing of it. I think that's super cool. And we talked to some really neat people. Some people are leaders and CEOs of the largest relocation management companies in the world. Some people are global mobility and business travel, corporate folks, buyers, if you will. Some people are service providers. Some people just have interesting stories and that we find, to be worthwhile. But we make a place for all of it. We try to do a show Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday at 4
Mm.
o'clock Eastern Time, US, which makes it a little late for our friends in the European continent, but we appreciate those who tune in. You can always catch it on replay as well. Started it in January of 2020, and we like to bring the conference environment to the cubicle, so to every person that can't make it. If you're one of the lucky few who have been to a conference in this industry, you know how fun it is, how energizing it is, and inspiring it is. And there's 98% of people in our industry never get to go to the conference.
Yeah.
They're cleaning the units. In corporate housing, they are working on a moving truck somewhere. They are doing these things. They never get to be in the room, and I think that it's a real privilege to be in the room. It's inspiring, and so we want to bring that privilege kind of to everybody.
Exactly. I mean, topic wise, I've always really loved it. So sometimes it's been a topic or the guests I've not necessarily known much about, but you can always learn. You always work it that you feel very included as a somebody watching, which is amazing. And I always recommend. I run a course here, and anybody that attends a course, recommend to tune in to Love and Relo. I've loved it in the past. The breadth of topic as well. Some might say off topic, but actually it isn't. But topics such as diversity and everything, it's fascinating. I think so. There's those, and like you say, you broadcast live from some exhibitions as well, which is very entertaining. Um, and then also I think I don't know what they call it, that like a truck race, but
Mm-hmm.
you've been very involved in Move for Hunger, and I don't know
Yeah.
if you want to do a shout out for Move for Hunger and any
Yeah,
charities.
I think Move for Hunger, moveforhunger.org is the website. Move for Hunger is really cool. I mean, there's very few charitable organizations that are tailored for the relocation industry. And I just think
Yeah.
that is so cool. And so we definitely love to support them. We've been a supporter for many, many years. I actually won the Move for Hunger Mover of the Year award at my last company in 2018 or 19, I think it was. And yeah, we've done truck pulls that have probably raised, between the truck pulls and the September when we do Hunger Action Month and we do fundraisers, we've probably raised about $200,000 for this organization. And it really comes from people in our community that come together and they donate, their companies donate and sponsor. I mean, we have people that'll call in during our telethon the third Thursday in September, and they'll make a $5,000 commitment. And I'm absolutely blown away by the generosity in our industry. I think it's so unique. It's probably the best part of our industry.
I've been absolutely astonished by that, and also by on many occasions you've matched the donations, which is incredible.
Yeah,
So
I think I had
no,
to match. I think I had to match about 20. I think I had to match about like $2,600 last year. Um, that was a fun email to get. Like, hey, by the way, Ben, here's your link to donate your $2,600. And I'm like,
oh Lord,
crap, like, why did I
yeah,
open my mouth? But you know what? my dad was a minister
Right.
for a period, right? He was an ordained minister. He did a lot of things in his career, but for a period, he was a preacher. And there's a saying used to be, "Give till it hurts,"
Right.
and he would also say, "It's not faith if your knees aren't knocking while you're
Uh,
doing it." So it's, if you're not scared, you're not
yeah.
really doing anything
Yeah.
substantial. And
Right.
so I think it's good sometimes to stretch your faith a little bit in yourself, in God if you believe, and in humanity, and give. You know.
Yeah, nice, very nice, and I think that's a lovely kind of note on which to finish, really. So, huge thanks, Ben, for giving up your valuable time. Really appreciate it. I'm looking at the clock there, and I've taken up far too much of your time. Please don't
It's a
go away,
pleasure.
but we'll finish this now. But do a little for a little kind of like cheerio to the audience here, and say and but thank you very much, Ben, for being with us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Richard, for having me, and really appreciate it. I love your work. I really do. Big fan. Thank you.
Likewise, likewise. Thank you.